Guys, Joe Munoz here. I'm in Dallas, heading out pretty soon on a trip. Let me prop this up. I want to talk to you about Foqa. Foqa, Flight Ops Quality Assurance. What is Foqa? For those of you that don't know, it's basically how your company can track various things, various phases of your flight. By the way, Foqa is designed to improve safety. Generally, it's a non-punitive type of thing. They're not after you or anything. They're looking at how can we make the operation safer, generally is what they're looking for. So let me talk to you about Foqa, F-O-Q-A, Flight Ops Quality Assurance. This program basically is monitoring several parameters. Your company, depending on who you fly for and what type of program they have in place, they're going to be looking at usually anywhere between 8 to 12 parameters. This includes everything from excessive localizer deviation on approaches, excessive glide slope deviation, excessive sink rate, long flare time, high speed on approach. There's all kinds of various parameters that are being looked after. And usually in Foqa programs, if more than half of the parameters that are being monitored are exceeded, then usually it will flag the program. There'll be either an amber or a red flag, cautionary alert for the operator. So for example, if you have an unstable approach due to excessive sink rate, maybe you also have high speed on the approach, excessive glide slope deviation, you have a long flare time, and you have a hard touchdown or something like that. So now you've exceeded more than half of the parameters that are monitored by your company. Usually at that point, it's going to flag, the software will flag your flight, at which point your safety team, your safety department will go in, and usually they can review a full animation of everything that happened. These programs, once more, they're capturing basically engine start to engine shutdown. It's the whole entire flight, all phases of flight. And generally your airline, depending on if your aircraft is Wi-Fi equipped or not, they will be able to capture 100% of the data. So if you're flying an airplane that has Wi-Fi on board, usually the way it works is when you pull up to the gate at your destination, the Wi-Fi will connect and the Foqa data will uplink to your safety department. Otherwise, there's other a little more antiquated methods of collecting data, which is literally a chip installed on the aircraft, and then usually at the end of the month, your company will pull the card, and then they'll be able to capture data that way. So several ways to do it. One couple things, right, that you want to be mindful of. For example, flare time. A typical flare is 7 seconds. Okay, so by the time you enter into the flare and actually touch down, it's a 7-second phase, if you will. This is why, for example, on the A320, the flare mode does what? 50-foot ELAC snapshot, and then now as we approach that 30 feet, we get a -2 degree pitch down over a period of 8 seconds, right? So 8 seconds, why? Because a typical flare is 7 seconds, so by the time the flare mode is done, you should already be on the ground. So if you're flaring longer than that, if you have high speed on the approach, if you have excessive deviations off of the loc and the glide slope, anything like this, this is where your Foqa team will start to get flagged and look at it and say, okay, you know, what type of corrective action can we employ? How can we maybe alter when we want you to configure for the approach, or make recommendations, right, for you to configure on the approach. There's many airports, I can tell you here just in the States, where they expect you to maintain a certain altitude until passing a fix, and then you drop down on higher than a 3-degree glide slope down to the runway. They have you maintain a higher speed than normal on the approach just because of the pure traffic volume. It's congested. So in these types of scenarios, Foqa data really helps to develop a strategic plan whereby your company can make recommendations for configuration of the aircraft to always ensure a stabilized approach. Hope that helps you. Hope you found some value in this video. If you want to train with myself, Joe Munoz, Juan Dominguez, your friends in Training Program Success, visit us in Miami. Go to our website. It's One Step Prep, the number one, onestepprep.com. Can't wait to see you there.